everyone, RogueGold here, welcome back to The Division 2, and today, over 2 years since it was first announced, it is wild to finally be able to say that the game's latest DLC, Battle for Brooklyn, releases in less than 1 week this coming Tuesday, May 27th. The wait is finally over. Alongside it launches the Year 7 Season 1 update titled Crossroads, and in combination, this will be the largest content drop that The Division 2 has had since the release of its Warlords of New York expansion back in 2020. With all of that content comes a lot of additions and changes to the game. I know it can be tough to keep up with all of the news that comes out on this new stuff, so that is why I make these videos, to condense and present the most noteworthy changes coming your way each new update. Now, today's video is going to be slightly different, that being because in my list I will be including things from both the free Year 7 Season 1 update as well as the paid Battle for Brooklyn DLC. For those wondering, the DLC is priced at $15 USD. If you want a complete breakdown on the scope and scale of the content that it contains, I've got just what you need. Link for that video will be in the upper corner and down in the description. But yeah, for the last 5 years, all of the Division 2's updates and content have been free. This DLC bucks that trend, but given the relatively inexpensive price point, I assume that most dedicated fans are likely planning on picking it up, hence why I wanted to include its features in this rundown. But yeah, new DLC, new seasonal update kicking off the next year of content. We've got a lot to go through. If you are not already subscribed, then I hope this video may entice you too. There is a ton of content I've got prepped for Brooklyn's launch. You're not going to want to miss any of it, but without further ado, let's get to this. Beginning with change number 1, I had to dedicate a slot in this video to highlighting some huge news that we got just this past week. The Division 2 is coming to Game Pass. That's right, starting on May 27th, the same launch day as Battle for Brooklyn, Year 7, and the Crossroads season, the Division 2 will now be available completely free to anyone with a standard tier Game Pass subscription or above on the Xbox, PC, and cloud versions of the service. This is big for a number of reasons. The obvious one is an increased number of players. Game Pass had 34 million subscribers as of last public reporting in 2024. That opens the door to a huge potential new audience. And by aligning this with the release of the new DLC, ideally that means we'll be seeing maximum amounts of exposure and buzz for the game as a whole. That of course all leads to the potential for increased revenue, right? Because even though Game Pass players would be bypassing the initial game purchase, that one-time fee pales to the promise of recurring season pass purchases, in-game store cosmetic pickups, and then of course most ideally, DLC acquisitions. And alongside whatever form of compensation Microsoft has given Massive and Ubisoft to list the Division 2 on their service, all of this could very well lead to greater resources and content for us down the road. We'll have to wait and see, but both in the short and long term, this change has the promise of some big returns. Moving on to change number 2, we have the Scavenging points revamp. This topic has a tendency to easily balloon and become far more complex than it needs to be, so let me explain this as simply as I can. Scavenging points are tied to the 5th node within your SHD watch, which lets you redeem them for small bundles of materials and resources. Currently in the game, earning these points is account bound, whereas spending them is character bound. By that I mean, for every 1 scavenging point earned on any level 40 character, any other characters you have that are at level 40 will also earn 1 scavenging point. However, redeeming a scavenging point only subtracts that point from that specific character. Meaning, in essence, if you have 3 alternate characters at level 40, earning 1 scavenging point is really the equivalent of earning 4 of them. This is why mule characters are such a popular farming method. You may have heard of that terminology, where by using the level 30 character boost and speed leveling that character to 40, and purchasing the blueprint that allows for a shared resource pool among all of your characters, you can get thousands of free scavenging points in one afternoon's time, and then redeem those for tons of resources for use back on your main character. This whole system has been in place for a long time, right? The problem is that with the release of Battle for Brooklyn, the DLC now offers a level 40 character boost, meaning if the system were to be kept as is, people could make a new character and gain thousands of new points to spend within minutes, completely removing the Division 2's material grind and balance economy. So, what is now going to happen is that scavenging points are being merged into a global pool, where 1 point spent on any character spends that point for all characters. And newly leveled alternate characters will no longer be given thousands of free points upon reaching level 40. Now, in order to unify scavenging point levels per account, the devs are going to be wiping any unspent points once the game goes down for maintenance on the launch day of the new season, and regifting players with an amount of points equal to their SHD level. Moving forward, materials yielded for redeeming scavenging points is being increased by 3 times to make up for the loss of this old farming method. You can see a comparison of those new values in this chart on screen, but beyond that, the devs have also stated that a rebalance of the economy, a lowering of expertise costs, and more measures are being looked at for future Year 7 updates in order to reshape and better the overall experience. For now, however, if you take nothing else away from this, be sure to spend any unused scavenging points prior to May 27th or they will go to waste. And if you want to take advantage of the mule watch farming method while it is still here, we are in the final few days of its existence in the game, so get at it. At number 3, we've got single strap backpacks. While relatively minor in the grand scope of things, this change has gotten many players excited. For context, back in the Division 1, backpack items we looted utilized a single strap aesthetic, as seen here. In the Division 2, however, this was changed to adopt a more traditional dual strap look. Now, to be clear, this is a purely cosmetic difference, but over time, players have increasingly vocalized their longing for the return of the single strap backpack in the Division 2. The problem was that for many years, the devs had explained how character models in the Division 2 were simply made different than in the Division 1, and that in order to allow single strap backpacks to function, they'd have to go in and manually redo character skeletons, as well as all clothing items that had been made exclusively to accommodate dual strap bags. Well, I'm happy to report that all of these years later, they have finally cracked the code, and we are indeed going to be getting our first single strap backpacks in the new Crossroads season. As shown on a recent dev stream, we got a preview of a few of the new backpacks we can expect to see, and they look pretty solid. There is one caveat, however. Again, it's not like they just chose not to do this change for so long. There were roadblocks. The devs have confirmed that these new single strap packs are only going to work when you have a shirt or jacket cosmetic equipped that hides your chest piece. So, while it's not a perfect solution, we're officially one step closer to re-achieving that classic Division 1 agent look. At number 4, shifting over to some new DLC features, we have the Brooklyn map. Now, firstly, the significance of us getting a new open world map cannot be understated. As I'm sure I need not remind any longtime Division 2 player, we have not gotten any new explorable open world zones since 2020 in the Warlords of New York expansion, so that alone is very exciting. But additionally, them choosing Brooklyn as the location for this comes with some heavy significance. For any who don't know or didn't play it, Brooklyn was the very first location players ever explored in the Division franchise, as it served as the small tutorial slice in the Division 1. And in this DLC, we get to revisit those same iconic locations. No doubt nostalgia is going to play a big role in this DLC, as we get to do stuff like storm the police station from the original E3 2013 trailer, visit the original tutorial safe room, and much more. It's confirmed that the Division 1's tutorial space accounts for roughly 30 to 35% of this DLC's total play space. The remaining 65 to 70% sprawls out across 2 zones, Dumbo and Brooklyn Heights. But fear not, nostalgia isn't everything here. There is plenty that's new. One such element is the season. Battle for Brooklyn will be the Division franchise's first ever content and world set in autumn. This comes with, of course, new visuals, as well as behind the scenes weather tech. Additionally, the control points of these new open world zones are souped up compared to those we've seen in DC and Manhattan. They feature new defenses like automated turrets and shock panels that scale in volume and lethality depending on how high your world difficulty is. And then, of course, standard with any Division 2 open world space, you have your rotation of open world activities, there's new unique bounty locations, 16 new world bosses, there's going to be plenty of content, challenges, and discoveries to be found in these new zones. That serves as the perfect segue to take us to number 5, 8 new hunter puzzles. Just like we had in the base game in DC, and again in the Warlords expansion in Lower Manhattan, Battle for Brooklyn has 8 new hunters to seek out and fight within its map. We've been shown previews for 2 of those hunters, as well as their respective masks that you get to loot and wear upon defeating them. They definitely look quite cool. But yeah, deciphering these riddles, solving the open world puzzles that grant you access to these hunter fights, those have always proven to be strong moments of teamwork and unity for the Division 2 community, so it should be quite fun to see people tracking these new puzzles down. While it has not been confirmed as of yet, it seems inevitable that we will likely see a new wall to display our masked trophies at the bridge, settlement, win in Brooklyn. Also very likely that we will see these hunters dropping keys to unlock a new chest with a new elusive reward, but all the more to discover once we get the DLC in our hands. Just the confirmation of new hunters to fight is good enough for me. Moving on to number 6, we've got Division 1 abilities. Remember how I was mentioning that nostalgia is a big element of this update, with the DLC taking us back to where it all began in Brooklyn? Well, that is extending out to the greater theme of this season as well. Year 7 Season 1's global modifier is titled Hardcore, and it, as well as the active modifiers tied to it, draw heavy inspiration from some of the gear systems and signature skills that we had back in the Division 1. Looking at the global modifier first, Hardcore unlocks new stats that you passively spec into depending on how your build is constructed. Depending on how many weapon damage, armor, and skill tier cores you have equipped on your build, this will dictate your baseline amounts of firearms, stamina, and electronics. Sound familiar, my Division 1 vets out there? These stats unlock new abilities, like firearms allowing you to build beyond the 60% crit chance cap, whereas stamina grants you scaling amounts of bonus armor every 300,000 damage you take. But that's not all. Looking at the active modifiers on offer this season, there's 5 in total. Some of these share striking similarities to the community-beloved signature skills that we had access to back in the Division 1, like the security link boosting your stamina score and sharing stamina bonuses with all nearby teammates, or the tech link doing the same for electronics. There's a lot of complexity to these modifiers, and we didn't even scratch the surface of the passive mods yet, so rest assured there's going to be a lot of theory crafting to do this season, this time with a healthy dose of nostalgia injected in. Oh, what's that? You thought the nostalgia train was over? Far from it. At number 7, we have Division 1 items. Whether they're direct pulls from the original game, or new creations that just take heavy inspiration, much of the new stuff we're getting in the Crossroads Season Pass will be familiar to any longtime franchise player. Just to go down the list here, the exotic weapon for the season is, drumroll, the Bakan from the Division 1. This RPK LMG offers stacking magazine size bonuses per kill on reload, which has the potential to provide some solid sustained DPS given the RPK's archetype. As far as exotic gear, we've got the Nimble Holster, which takes the Division 1's classic high-end talent, the Granted Healing, while performing a cover-to-cover move, and soups it up to be worthy of being a dedicated exotic in the Division 2. There's then the Tinkerer Mask, which reprises a personal favorite of mine, the Alpha Bridge gear set, which allows for you to equip 2 weapons of the same class, but in turn share the talents from both on one singular weapon. That's bound to be a meta shifter for sure. And then lastly, there is the new Measured Assembly gear set, which some may pick up on the subtle reference to the Division 1's Final Measure gear set. This one's not quite a one-to-one. The set in the Division 1 focused on grenade diffusion and buffs for that, whereas the Division 2's take is all about destroying and protecting from hostile skill proxies. But yeah, clearly, across the board, some heavy inspiration taken for this season's additions to our arsenal. Fortunately, most of them seem to be good picks. On to number 8, moving away from the nostalgia. Just kidding, this party never ends. We've got the Reprise Smart Cover skill. If it was not obvious by now, Smart Cover was a skill that we had back in the Division 1. Division 2 decided not to carry it over to the original release of the game, but it is now coming back with the Brooklyn DLC. Smart Cover is mostly self-explanatory. You buff up certain pieces of cover to give you some solid bonuses. Here we are getting 2 variants of the skill. Firstly, there is the more damage-focused variant called Precision. While on affected cover, you gain bonuses to weapon handling and damage to targets out of cover. That's a huge one. You also get the ability of auto-reloaded weapons upon weapon swap. This one's going to be wild. There's then the defensive-focused Fortified variant. This makes you immune from stagger and being knocked out of cover, while also providing bonus armor with explosive and pulse resistances, which could make for a solid choice in PvP. But yeah, similar to this DLC package, the new open world and everything else, this is the first new skill we are getting in 5 years for the Division 2, and especially with that damage to targets out of cover on the Precision variant, it has the potential to be a good one. At number 9, we've got more stash space. I don't think I need to explain this one too much, but for years, players had begged the devs to increase our stash capacities, especially with each new season delivering new gear and exotics to hoard. We finally saw it happen last season, where the team went in and retroactively made it so that owning the Warlords of New York expansion, as well as the Year 1 pass, granted players 50 additional stash slots respectively, taking the total maximum stash capacity to 400 slots. Well, I'm happy to report that that trend is continuing this season. By purchasing and owning the Battle for Brooklyn DLC, you will get another 50 slots added to your stash. Now, if you don't own either Warlords or the Year 1 pass, your total stash slots may vary, but players who own all three will now be able to achieve the new highest total stash capacity of 450 slots. That's 50 more spaces to store items that I'll probably never look at again. Hallelujah. Alright, and then last but certainly not least, we get to number 10, Shared Journey Progress. This one is a big win in my eye, and it was a highly requested change and fix ever since Seasons 2.0 got implemented to the game last year. For some quick context, as many of you likely know, the seasonal journey is the cornerstone for progress in each new Division 2 season, with it giving out things like materials, exotic caches, season pass XP, but most importantly, our seasonal modifiers. Well, for the past 2 seasons since the system was introduced in Year 6 Season 2, progress for objectives within the seasonal journey was strictly individual. If an objective asked you to get kills on a certain enemy type, if you happen to be playing in a group and your teammate got the kill instead of you, you would not earn progress for that objective. Pretty annoying, and it was unfortunate that it was far more productive to play by yourself than it was to squad up with your friends to work through a new season. Well, as of Year 7 Season 1, that has all changed. Announced by the team, this update has fixed and/or enabled the seasonal journey to be properly progressed while in co-op play. A small change on paper, no doubt, but one that I imagine will be a sigh of relief for many, especially with friends logging back on and reuniting after years away to dive into Brooklyn. And there you have it, my friends. Those are what I consider to be the 10 biggest changes coming in the Division 2's new season, Crossroads. I hope you all enjoyed and that the video helped condense things a bit and get you the true need-to-know info. This update is a big one for the game, no question, and it's a bit of uncharted waters, again by us not having gotten something of this scale for so long. So it's going to be an adventure for everyone. I hope you'll stick around and check out some of the DLC coverage I've got coming up, but regardless, thank you for checking out this video. Any thoughts, questions, confusions over the stuff I went over, please leave any and all of it down in the comments below. I'll do my very best to respond and clear things up. That is going to do it for me on this one though, y'all. I'm going to go and sort out some final preparations heading into this next week, and I will see you all this Tuesday on the ground in Brooklyn. Thank you all so much for watching, and until then, RogueGold. Out.